93 to 128, I would be in favor of submitting a truck exclusion with one of those two as the routes. And there's no cost to us in doing that. And I haven't, still unclear as to whether or not we can or we can't, but I would move that way. That's my personal opinion. If we're moving with any truck exclusion, go down that road, reconsider our vote that designated 62 to Havel Street as the alternative route. And that's my opinion if we want to move forward with any truck exclusion. But you've been
just real quick.
That's
okay.
She's been very patient.
Barbara Duff, 83 Havel Street, and I did make a trip to the Department of Transportation, and I have in front of me what you probably have in front of you from the Mass DOT, their actual traffic code under Section 10A9. So it does say there's the 3 different methods, and it seems like you can, but you need to get the the adjacent community's approval, which would either mean Reading, it means more work. So I'm hoping that this isn't just being done because it's more work. It doesn't look like it's something that's not allowed to do.
I believe Route 28 is a state highway.
You can go.
But
you can go Section 2, which is.
What does your Section 2 say? I want to make sure it's the same one that you have.
Well, there's 1, 2, and 3.
All right, what's number 2
options.
say?
The 2 says lie partially in an adjacent community but only on state highway, or 3 lie partially in an adjacent community but have the adjacent community's written approval.
That we can go 28.
We can go 2.
So
Yeah.
2 could
28
just
to
Yeah.
128. We wouldn't need my reading of it. You wouldn't need
Reading's
approval.
Okay, because that's a
That's
state.
my reading of it.
Okay, but also, we do need an engineering study done. So, I mean, if that has not been done already, that's listed on here as well. It needs to be done in order to get this written up and sent to them.
There was some sort of study done. I don't know if it qualifies
Traffic
under
right.
an engineering study, according
Okay.
to DOT.
All right.
Mr. Cannavale, can you answer
The
that?
application you have, that is the engineering study. And
So that would qualify. What was previously done would qualify.
For a different exclusion though, right?
No.
No?
No, because you need the numbers from
Just
the area
Chestnut
where you
Street.
want the exclusion taking place.
Yeah, I mean,
Now, another suggestion is when you get that kind of study done, it probably shouldn't be 4th of July weekend, or the week of summer when everybody's away on vacation and nobody's traveling on these roads. It should probably be done when school's in session. It kind of makes a little bit more sense to me that, get it done when all the people are actually on the road. So, I mean, that was the concern too, because I saw the counters on the road just last week, and it was during, vacation week. So I just wanted to make sure you guys had this.
I think we had done it previously, right?
That was
During
Although the interesting thing on the Chestnut Street numbers, between 2011, 2012 numbers, the volume was higher, but the commercial vehicles over 2.5 tons was less in 2011 with a higher traffic count than it was in 2012 with a lower traffic count. So take your pick, which means,
And that's
volume
kinda-
decreased, but commercial vehicles increased.
Yeah, and I mean, when coming up with this, is there any way to get some kind of a truck exclusion for, like, they're using our town as a cut-through. Is there any way to avoid that? I mean, like you said, getting them to, they're near the highway. They're 2 companies, businesses that are doing business in Wilmington, I believe, if I'm dealing with the right trucks, and they have 93 in their backyard. So, using us as a cut-through, is there any way as a town we can argue we don't want them using our town as a, cut-through? I don't know.
You get a complete truck exclusion.
No, yeah, not a complete truck exclusion, but deterring them. The way Reading deters a lot of traffic in their town by, doing what they do in their center of town. That's why no one wants to go through there. I think maybe we could try a little
We're
harder,
getting close to
too.
that. We throw another
That
set
was
of
the
lights in.
objective of the
Yeah.
early proposal on Chestnut Street.
That was the traffic calming.
Yeah.
I think if we are able to get under Section 2, 10A9,
Yep.
propose 28 to 128 and 93 to 128, that may accomplish the goal that y'all looking for us to get to.
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, I don't think trucks are going to go 62 to Havel Street. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to make that turn at Ryers.
But I don't want to force them that way through an exclusion that puts
No.
them in that direction.
No, and that's why, saying yes and getting them to go, getting this vote to go to the Department of Transportation, in my mind.
Mr. Conrad,
Wasn't
can you
right.
address what was placed down in Chestnut Street? I heard a couple of times about cars recently that was placed down there. I'm not sure what they were and what purpose.
There were
they served.
counters out there.
After the
yeah.
selectmen vote, there's no current data on Park Street or Havel Street. So we hired a consultant to put out traffic monitors in 3 locations. Chestnut Street primarily because up where the residents are and down near where DPW and Monahans are, traffic is different.
Sure.
Different speeds. So it gave us indication people are going faster there than up near where the residents are, number 1. Number 2, Park Street, the school consultants, as part of the school project, had done some traffic stuff. We did that, kind of just replicate their data. And the third one was Havel Street. There's no current data on Havel Street.
Yeah, I saw
Mass
that
Highway
one,
does have a
yeah.
procedure. It's a common procedure. You look at statewide averages and you can adjust the monthly numbers to make that relevant. So it's that is addressable.
And I don't know if you would be willing to accept too, I have a petition that we went around and we got some Haverhill Street and actually people who aren't even on Haverhill Street that was sort of, disagreeing with the whole thing as well too. So I don't know if this would be a
Okay.
valid thing that you'd take, yeah.
Do you want your clipboard?
I was
You don't
gonna
want to give me,
ask
that's a nice
That's a
clipboard.
nice clipboard.
I know.
Sure it is.
Sure it is. Thank you very much.
And I'll just state that there's 30 signatures
Yeah.
of those that live on the Haverhill Street
Oh, great.
area and other adjacent
Yeah,
streets.
and that was actually quite difficult because everybody is away on vacation these past 2 weeks, including myself, who came back for this, specifically. So I think I would have gotten more. I know a couple of my neighbors are away on vacation that totally wanted
It
to
was a
sign
holiday
it.
week.
So, yeah,
Understood.
it was tough to get that.
Thank you. Mrs. Wagner?
I would just urge you to consider the traffic study regardless of the cost. And I would ask that you would expand the parameters to include the safety concerns of the intersection at Chestnut and Haverhill. That should be rolled into any study that we do in Chestnut and Haverhill. Just last Friday night, we had an accident again at that intersection. A young 18-year-old boy in a compact car hit the granite curb in front of my house so hard, he cracked the granite curb and pushed it back 4 inches. That's typical of what goes on in that intersection. That was just trying to swerve to miss somebody coming through the stop sign because he was in the blind dip on Haverhill Street going south. So I had a conversation with Chief Murphy, and he identifies that intersection as a safety concern. So I encourage the board to consider incorporating that intersection into a study to see what we can do to make that a safer thoroughfare for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Cannavale?
Sorry to be the person. We have another person on here.
Mrs. Wagner, did you hear that?
I'm sorry.
According to Mr. Cannavale, the DPW director, that's already being addressed and looked into.
Thank you.
That gentleman,
He wants to say.
oh, he wanted to say.
Anyone else like to speak on this issue? Board members? We have a motion, I believe, way back when, that was seconded for purposes of discussion.
Yeah, and I'd like to just, I'm in support of reconsidering our vote at this particular time. And then I would.
Mr. O'Leary, we're going to ask you to speak up. There's some in the residents,
Okay.
some in the audience who can't hear.
Yeah, I'm in
We
favor, again,
mumble.
I am in favor of reconsideration at this particular point in time. And just to echo what Mr. Prisco had to say, and other members of the board, at the time, we had been dealing with this thing for months and months and months. And we thought we were doing a pretty good job, knowing that we couldn't satisfy everybody. But there's no doubt we were so close to it, we didn't step back and maybe see the whole picture. I think we have an opportunity to address it in a more thorough manner or fashion. I think we should avail ourselves of that opportunity. I think the suggestion of hiring a traffic engineer to look at the whole picture here, and someone who is experienced in filing these types of petitions on behalf of communities with Mass DOT to find out exactly what our options are going to be. And again, it may show that we don't have an option. If that's the case, let them tell us that. And then we have to go to Plan B. But if we do have an option and we can go down Route 28, I agree with the chairman. Let's do it. I don't think at this particular point in time I want to revote and have our DPW director do all the necessary study and paperwork for the types of residence, commercial properties that are on Route 28 all the way down to 128. That'd be very labor intensive when we don't even know if that's a viable option yet. So to me, let's take a step back, reconsider our vote, and then instruct the administration to to find out the cost associated with hiring an engineer to meet the needs that we currently identifying, so.
Mr. Prisco?
Can we get back to the discussion about funding? So I guess I wasn't clear on that discussion when Sari brought it up. How would we fund it?
There was $25,000 allocated probably 2 months ago.
Right. But I thought we could not use that money for,
That's
We were just,
91.
we were just told that they couldn't be used for what we were, for the traffic calming issues.
in a I thought in.
But maybe a
He
study?
said he
No,
didn't
no.
know. He says he.
Mr. Cannavale
find
said
out.
that
We
he
can
did. We can use
They
it.
can
Can ask.
study.
Yeah.
We can use it for a study.
He's gonna ask.
I
He's
believe-
going
I
to
believe
ask.
so. I believe that would go over.
If we cannot use it, what are our options?
October town meeting.
Over town meeting. Okay. Between now and whenever this study gets complete, we are not going to move forward without doing any type of traffic calming.
I believe the DPW director is putting signage and things like that up down on Chestnut New Street, correct me if I'm wrong. There are other things that are taking place, not necessarily traffic calming, but
Okay.
more to alert the drivers in that area that it's a heavily traveled and lived upon roadway, so drive with caution.
We've already enhanced the signage at all the crosswalks on both sides, large signs and crosswalk here. We're looking at the cost of installing those driver awareness lights that here's the speed limit, here's how fast you're going, and it blinks when you're over. We're looking at that at certain places as well. From a traffic calming menu from the top to the bottom, that list I gave you, these are the things you typically try first.
Yep.
In a lot of communities, it's very effective having those flashing radar lights.
Okay.
So that is before we get to the next step. So we are doing things, I think I sent a letter out or email out to you guys with a list of things we're doing.
Yeah, we've been going way too long without any solution, so we at least have to keep some level of progress. If it's signage and other little things, that's fine. That would be good. At least we do something while we're
No,
waiting.
I
Some other
believe
things
DPW director is going forward with that.
Just
The
wanna make
reason why
sure.
we don't have a solution is because we seem to get to a solution and then we change, so.
I understand that.
It's no one's fault. We're trying, I think this board's doing its best to come up with the best solution possible for that entire neighborhood.
Two other ongoing things we've noticed. If you get to New at Haverhill Street, there were 2 dual poles on either side blocking the vision. I spoke to Kevin Sullivan at Electric Light that day. They were pulled out. That enhances the vision north and south. That intersection at Chestnut and Haverhill is one of the worst in town. And
Yeah.
because the vision's obstructed, there's residences with the bushes are so high you can't see. For example, coming eastbound on Chestnut Street, you can't see who's coming southbound on Haverhill Street. So we're working with the homeowners, we'll be working with the homeowners to try to cut that vegetation back so you have a better line of sight. The roadway obviously does have a dip, we all know that, but having a tree in the way doesn't make it any better.
Also,
So
if I could
We are
add
looking at
too,
actively looking at things.
Barbara Duff again, there's no speed sign, speed limit sign coming
you
down
mentioned that.
Haverhill south to
Correct.
get towards Chestnut too.
There is
And I think
no-
the cars go speeding right by our house at least to get there, and then, we had
There are
mentioned,
2 signs. Unfortunately, the first sign for speed limit is at New Street, south of the intersection.
yeah.
And the next one is northbound after the intersection. So I've spoken to the police, and apparently it's a process you have to go to put in speed limit signs. I'm a little confused because if it's already there, I'm just moving it down a couple hundred yards, and somehow it's an issue I'm working out with the police. It clearly needs more speed limit signs, I agree. You can come down on the square, head all the way south, and the traffic loops we had there, people are averaging about 45 miles an hour at that point on a road that's 35.
The signage issue is something that needs to be worked out with our police department, or is it done by a state agency?
To have a speed limit set, typically you do a traffic study, just like we just did. And here's the average speed limit, here's what they call the pace. It's quite detailed, but since somebody's already done it, that's why it's 35 miles an hour in both ways. I just propose adding some additional signs.
Right.
And I thought that would be okay, so given the holiday and all that, I haven't talked directly to the chief.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to Officer Tilton, but clearly it needs more signs. I think everybody would concur that there's not enough signage on that saying go slow.
Thank you.
So,
Mr. Yule?
Jeff Yule, 427 Park Street. First of all, I'm glad to hear that you're reconsidering the aspect of that corner of Haverhill and Park. I'm glad that you're doing that, and for the simple reason, I know I have